Welcome back to the channel. I just bought our very first project car. It's a Mark II 1999 MX5, and with little to no experience, we're going to try and fix it. If you're not new to the channel, you might be thinking, but don't you have that lovely green MX5 with the gold wheels? And you're right, I do. It's on loan from my friend Dan, and while we're going to do little bits to it and keep it nice for him, it's not actually ours. This bad boy is ours.
Let's take it back to the start. Like all good project cars, I found this one on Facebook Marketplace with a list price of £400. You can immediately see why it was listed for £400, as it's missing its rear quarters and has some obvious rust. But how bad can it be? After all, I wanted a project and I wanted it cheap. So, last Friday, we hooked up the trailer and set off to collect her. We let her relax in the stables for our first night and came back the next day to have a look at what we bought.
So what have we actually bought? Well, it's the Mark II, so you'll see there's no fog lights down at the front, and it's a 1.8 with a 5-speed gearbox. It's been off the road for just under 2 years, so it does need a bit of work. It failed its last MOT for headlights and some rust, which we'll talk about. So let's firstly talk about, I guess, the bad parts. Getting it here wasn't without incident. I managed to put this scratch. When I got it on and off the trailer, I managed to put a nice big scratch along the side. That's actually not such a big issue, because if we come around to the back of the car here, you'll see why I got it for so cheap. Rust. All the MX-5s have them. Can't be avoided. Either you've got rust or you've had rust repaired. So previous owner's done a great job of taking the rear quarter panel off. And actually, we've got so does the replacement panels too, which is great. So we'll be able to get them on. Never welded in my life, so that'll be fun. Down here, you see that bright light? Shouldn't be able to see through there. So we've got a definite rust on the rear corner. Haven't had a look under the car. Everything else looks great, but we'll have to get a look under there and see how bad the underbody rust is. A few other bad parts of the car. The rear bumper has been taken off. Someone stole the catalytic converter, so we've got the bumper, but that'll need to go back on. So we're just got to hope we've got all the parts. There's a bunch of underbody wheel arches. I think maybe the boot liner is off as well, so we'll have to get that fixed. We've got a cracked mirror, not the end of the world, but we can definitely get that fixed. I guess this is a positive and a negative. It's got new front fenders on both sides, no rust underneath, which is great news, but they are a slightly different shade of blue, which is not as great. The last thing that you guess you could consider to be a negative of this car is that it has been off the road for 18 months, so we've got going to need to do a full service, basically full new fluids, new filters, new fuel pump. We need to get new fresh fuel in it. Has been sat with basically no fuel in it, so that's good. But it does run and drive, and I think for what we paid for it, which is £400, that's an absolute bargain. And it's not all bad, so let's cover some of the good things. The interior is actually an immaculate nick. It's got a Kenwood aftermarket stereo system, which sounds great. The roof, which is, I think, often a kind of a worry on these soft tops. Sorry, my camera's failed me there. The roof looks great for its age. I think it must have been replaced at some point. I think we might also have the rear heated windshield, not sure. It's got a brand new exhaust on it because someone came and thieved the catalytic converter, so I guess that's a good thing for us and a bad thing for whoever had to pay for a new catalytic converter. So obviously lots to do on the car. We need to get those quarter panels replaced on both sides. We're going to need to get it through an MOT, so full service. I don't know how to do any of that, so I'm going to bring you along and hopefully you can learn as I learn. And yeah, really excited. If you'd like to come along for the journey, you can hit subscribe. And if you've got any thoughts on what we should call the car, because every car needs a name, I think, leave them in the comments below, and whoever gets the most thumbs, we'll go with that. Please don't make it Mazda Mx5 face. I think my camera's had enough. We'll call it there, shall we? Let's catch you in the next one.
3, 2, 1, ready.
No.